One day, a blind girl from a remote town is suddenly taken to a luxurious mansion, where she is forced to marry the heir of an influential dynasty. The powerful grandmother of this clan believes in a secret prophecy and stops at nothing to subjugate the young couple to her will. The heroes gradually learn about corruption schemes and hidden tragedies that threaten to destroy not only their forced union, but also their lives. To save themselves, they must unravel the insidious secrets of the family and find the strength to resist dangerous intrigues. Don't forget to subscribe and like so you don't miss new stories. Alicia Moore woke up before dawn, as usual, felt the cold edge of the bed with her hand, and lay motionless for a minute, listening to the creaks of Helen Jackson's dilapidated house. The house sighed plaintively with its old walls, as if it too was tired of life in Maplewood Springs. She ran her fingertips along the folds of the faded blanket and took a deep breath of the damp air, saturated with the smell of pine needles. The muffled noise of the wind rushing among the tall pines broke through the thin cracks in the window, and only this rustle slightly enlivened the silence behind the walls. "Alicia, are you getting up or not? There is no point in lying down so long." Helen's sharp cry was heard from behind the door. "Do you really enjoy making me scream at the whole house again?" The girl raised herself on her elbow. Her fingers slid along the wood of the bed, found her cane at the foot of the bed. Alicia ran her hand over the smooth surface of her cane and stood up, swaying. "I'm getting up, Mrs. Jackson," she said quietly, trying to keep her voice from shaking. "I keep having the same dream, that I see sunlight, and then it's gone." "Dreams won't help you," Helen muttered, pushing the door open and squeezing into the room. "You live on my food. You don't bring in a cent. You're always walking around with that cane of yours, rummaging around the house like a helpless kitten. Be a little quicker." Alicia groped for an old sweater on the table and pulled it on over her shirt. She always did it quickly, with practice, but she couldn't stop feeling a lump of resentment rising in her chest. Helen would never say a kind word, would never ask how Alicia was feeling because she was her adopted daughter, but at the same time the most unloved person in the world. "Can I ask what needs to be done today?" Alicia said, bumping into a chair and step by step approaching the doorway. "I'll make you breakfast if you want." "Better help me in the barn," Helen snapped. "The chicken coop is in chaos again, and I'm not going to mess around there alone. And then you'll go to the store, buy some bread, just be careful not to lose your money." The girl nodded. She walked slowly after her adoptive mother, clinging to her heavy, hoarse voice as a landmark. The once terrible hut creaked with its floor, and a tiny window in the corridor let in timid rays of the morning sun. Alicia groped for the door and went out into the yard. There the cold Oregon wind hit her face, almost knocking her breath away. "Do you smell that?" she whispered to herself, habitually sharing her observations with the void. The smell of damp earth. "Stop talking to yourself," came from somewhere to the side. "Better get busy." Alicia turned away. She felt with her fingers the short steps leading to the chicken coop and carefully descended. The wind rustled the ends of her chestnut hair. All the time Alicia was collecting eggs and changing the litter, Helen stood to the side, leaning against the wall, sighing loudly, making it clear how tiring all this was for her. "Hurry! We still have a ton of things to do," she urged. "Don't drop the egg. Your eyes can't see, but your hands should feel it." Alicia was silent in response, swallowing the urge to quit her job and go wherever her eyes looked, despite the fact that she could not see either the glare of the sun or the outline of the horizon. When they managed to finish, Helen briefly ordered, "Into the house, change, and run to the store." Inside, Alicia, everything was seething with unsaid words, but she obediently returned. A few minutes later, she was already walking towards the dilapidated store where a narrow dirt path led. Her cane rhythmically tapped on the pebbles, and around her stretched an invisible but felt on the skin forest. "The sky is clear this morning, yes?" she asked herself out loud, smiling cautiously. "Maybe the weather will be fine." "Alicia, is that you again?" Someone suddenly called out to the right. I thought you only came in the afternoon. It was Abigail Ford, a local resident who ran a knick-knack shop. A smiling woman in her early 40s had a good habit of asking how Alicia was feeling. Miss Ford, the girl nodded, turning at the sound of her voice. Helen sent me to the store early today. I wanted to buy some bread, but since you're here, maybe you have something fresh? We'll find anything you want, Abigail responded cheerfully. And yes, the bread just arrived. It's still warm. Alicia smiled. Then I'll have one loaf. And if I may, tell me if you have anything like chocolate candies? Of course I do. I can offer you some toffee. Abigail tiptoed to the counter and took out the treasured box. Why do you suddenly need candies? What holiday? There is no holiday, Alicia muttered, taking a few dollars out of her pocket. Sometimes you just need to treat yourself to a little joy. The woman sympathetically patted her shoulder. Don't pay attention to people who say you're superfluous. You're a good one, Alicia. Thank you, Miss Ford, she replied, tucking her cane under her arm. Do you know, maybe there are any openings in Maplewood Springs? I'd like to find a job, at least do something to earn money. Abigail frowned. To be honest, our town is small, and I don't think anyone is ready to hire new people, but if I hear anything, I'll tell you. With these words, Alicia said goodbye and, trying not to trip over the edge of the threshold, went outside. Returning to the house, she immediately felt that Helen was agitated by something. Her foster mother was wandering around the kitchen, rattling dishes, muttering something under her breath. Where is she? Helen exclaimed angrily, seeing the girl appear. You've been dragging yourself around for God knows how long. Is buying bread really such a feat? Alicia squeezed the hand that held the change and carefully placed the purchased products on the table. Here's the bread, Mrs. Jackson, she said quietly. Fresh, just like you wanted. You should have done it faster, Helen grumbled, taking up the knife. If you want bread, cut it yourself. Just don't crumble it all over the floor. Alicia was about to leave so as not to see this anger, but Helen suddenly stopped her with her voice. Stop, or rather, listen. Did something happen? Alicia turned her head. Why do you look like that? Helen glanced out the window, then began pacing back and forth again, as if she didn't know how to start a conversation. A friend of mine called me last night, she finally began. He said there are people in New York who are willing to pay for your presence there. What presence? Alicia asked, her chest tightening. I don't understand. They say they need a girl like you, Helen explained roughly. Supposedly some kind of assistant, companion or something. They're promising to pay me $5,000 if I approve your trip. Alicia froze with her mouth open. New York was a huge city that she had never seen or imagined, except for the vague images she had read about it in Miss Ford's old brochures. Mrs. Jackson, are you really ready to send me alone to such a city? She asked. And who are these people? What business is it of yours who they are? Helen raised her voice. If you want independence, here's your chance. Agree, and I'll get my compensation. Maybe you'll get some too. But I'm blind, Alicia said, struggling to find the words. How will I get around? How will I live? No one will want to mess around with me for no reason. They will explain everything to you, Helen muttered. And what difference does it make? They say there is a luxurious house, a job. Maybe you will find yourself a groom. In short, tomorrow morning you are leaving by bus. Don't be afraid. They will meet you at the end of the route. Tomorrow, Alicia's voice broke. That's very fast. Helen pressed her lips together. If it's fast, then it's good. Otherwise, you will be stuck here for another 10 years, and what will happen to you except these disgusting chickens in the barn? You have no choice. Either you go or roll out into the street. I don't care. Alicia felt the blood pounding in her temples. She involuntarily squeezed her cane, trying to pull herself together. Can I think for a couple of days? No, Helen snapped. And so it's all decided. Alicia was silent, feeling a bitter lump rise in her throat. She returned to her room, mechanically touching the walls until she found a familiar corner. There, on the old chest of drawers, lay her necklace, which she had kept all her life as the most precious thing. A silver chain and 2 pendants, the sun and the moon, a mysterious inheritance, which Alicia knew almost nothing about. "Mom," she whispered into the void. "Dad, if you were alive, would you have allowed this to happen? I so dreamed of finding at least some kind of work here in Maplewood Springs, learning to be useful. And now everything is changing." Behind the wall, she heard the sound of a bottle being opened. Helen did not consider it necessary to hide her passion for whiskey. Alicia bit her lip, sighed, and finally took off the necklace to carefully hide it in her jacket pocket. "Come what may," she said to herself. "Either I'll die of fear, or I'll open a new page in my life." The next morning, gray clouds over the rooftops promised rain. Alicia stood at a bus stop on the outskirts of Maplewood Springs with a bag on her back. Dampness crept under her clothes, and the air smelled of wet pine needles. "Girl, where are you going so early?" An unfamiliar voice called out to her. "To New York," Alicia answered quietly. "They say I'll find work there." The interlocutor chuckled vaguely and turned away. A heavy bus with a loud clanking of brakes and clouds of steam suddenly materialized at the stop, opening a creaky door. Several people were already sitting inside, lost in their thoughts. "Get in," the driver muttered. "Make yourself comfortable in the back. There's more room for your cane there." Alicia took a step forward, hesitantly climbing onto the high step. Fear and curiosity were strangely mixed in her. She was 22 years old, and she had no idea what awaited her next, but she knew exactly what would not happen. There would be no offensive remarks from Helen, no insulting hints, no dull despair that had been suffocating her for years in a squalid house. "Come on, move faster!" Helen shouted from the street. "Tell her there that I said goodbye to her properly." Alicia turned to face the window, not knowing how to react. "Thank you for everything," she muttered, unable to squeeze out long words. "And you're welcome," Helen answered shortly, already absent-mindedly waving her hand. "Be sure you don't come back a beggar." Alicia heard the bus door close. The bus moved off, rocking gently. She sank slowly into the seat, clutching her cane to her chest. Through the noise of the engine, she suddenly heard the soft rustle of the wind outside the window, like a whisper, her native Maplewood Springs, seeing her off into the unknown. "Go ahead," Alicia whispered to herself, touching her pocket where the necklace lay. "Even though I cannot see this world, perhaps it will take on new colors for me." Rain began to drum on the roof of the bus, and the blue twilight over the road foreshadowed a long, exhausting journey. Alicia no longer thought about Helen Jackson, did not think about the mockery and the heavy smell of old boards in the house. She thought about who would meet her in New York and why these people had paid money just to get her there. But for now, her only companions were the steady jolts of the bus, the occasional coughs of passengers, and the endless questions in her soul that no one could answer. And the blue twilight over the road foreshadowed a long, exhausting journey. Alicia no longer thought about Helen Jackson, did not think about the ridicule and the heavy smell of old boards in the house. She thought about who would meet her in New York and why these people paid money just to get her there. But for now, her only companions were the steady jolts of the bus, the occasional coughs of passengers, and the endless questions in her soul that no one could answer. And the blue twilight over the road foreshadowed a long, exhausting journey. Alicia no longer thought about Helen Jackson, did not think about the ridicule and the heavy smell of old boards in the house. She thought about who would meet her in New York and why these people paid money just to get her there. But for now, her only companions were the steady jolts of the bus, the occasional coughs of passengers, and the endless questions in her soul that no one could answer. Alicia Moore was shaking all over when the bus stopped at a busy New York bus station, and the driver gave a short, "Here we go, miss," After long hours of rumbling and swaying, she groped her way to the exit, grabbed the handrail, and froze, hearing the multi-voiced roar of the big city around her. Unfamiliar voices merged with the noise of cars, the shower of horns, and the echoes of people hurrying somewhere. The wind, rushing along the platform, filled her nostrils with the smell of gasoline and something spicy and smoky, which seemed to persuade her, welcome to a new life. "Are you Alicia Moore?" A tense male voice sounded nearby, and Alicia shuddered. "Yes, it's me," she answered quietly, hugging her old bag tighter to herself. "Come on. My name is Harry Peterson. I'm supposed to take you to the man who hired you." Alicia wanted to ask for details, but Harry just sighed briefly, took her by the elbow, and led her to the car. A second later, she heard the sound of the door opening and carefully stepped forward, trying not to hit her head on the low opening. The air inside the car was cool. The air conditioner hummed, drowning out other sounds. "Get in, buckle up, we don't have long to go," Harry said. For the first time in her life, Alicia was riding in such a new car. The seats were covered in leather, and the car itself floated along the road almost silently. She barely had time to catch how the noises outside the window changed. Sharp signals, muffled screams, the ringing of construction tools. And all this seemed to be one endless wave, which she didn't feel in her quiet Maplewood Springs. "Is Mr. Scott waiting yet?" Harry asked into nowhere, apparently transmitting a message over the loudspeaker. "Yes, Miss Caroline told me to bring her straight to the mansion," a female voice thundered through the speakers. "Okay, let's go," Harry said, and, cut off the connection, Alicia held her breath. Scott. That seems to be the name of those who bought her. She didn't know what would happen next, and she was shaking all over with fear, but she tried to maintain the appearance of calm. The road took about an hour, and all this time Alicia listened to the hum of the city, trying to guess at least an approximate situation. But Harry was not a talkative person, and the silence pressed on her more than her tired soul could bear. When the car stopped, an almost unreal silence suddenly reigned outside the window. Only the noise of the wind remained the same. Harry opened the door and helped Alicia out. "We have arrived," he said. "You will now go up a small staircase. There will be an open terrace, and behind it the entrance to the house." Alicia nodded. A cane in her hand, she trembled, but she tried to maintain a proud posture, although she could not see where she was putting her feet. "Be careful. There are 3 steps here," Harry warned, supporting her by the elbow. The girl listened to the echo of her own steps on the marble slabs and felt the cool expanse of a large courtyard or garden on her skin. She barely had time to inhale the scent of jasmine when she heard a harsh, commanding female voice. "Move away, Harry. I will introduce myself to our guest." Alicia stopped abruptly, not knowing where to go. "Hello, my name is Caroline Scott. I am the owner of this house. Let's go. I'll show you inside," the woman continued, without waiting for an answer. Inside the mansion, the air was surprisingly quiet, as if they had installed soundproofing, cutting off the rumble of the big city. An expensive carpet softly sprang under Alicia's feet. Her cane glided almost silently. "Miss Moore, if you don't mind, I'll show you to your room first," Caroline stated, her heels clicking clearly, counting each step. "Of course," Alicia answered, feeling the fatigue that had fallen upon her. "Who are you anyway? And why am I here?" The words escaped her suddenly, but she knew that it would be more honest than continuing to play the submissive simpleton. Caroline stopped so abruptly that Alicia almost ran into her. "Why are you here?" "Let me outline the situation. You really need a job and we have a very specific vacancy." The woman's voice had a cold edge, but I was told that I would be something of an assistant, and you. Moreover, you will be the future wife of my grandson, Henry. Caroline said this so casually, as if they were discussing the purchase of a new dress. Alicia froze. "Future wife? What kind of joke is this? I don't even know Henry," she breathed out. You will soon. Caroline moved on. Believe me, we don't do anything without reason. They say that you are special, Miss Moore. There are signs in your documents that coincide with the family prophecy. Alicia fell a step behind, trying to comprehend what she had heard. What prophecy? Why was she blind and also special in such a sudden sense? I can't. I did not agree to the marriage. She squeezed out, but her voice sounded weak, even plaintive. You can. But if you refuse now, I'm afraid your life will be much harder. And besides, you no longer have money. You're not adapted to anything. Understand? I don't want to look like a monster. I'm just giving you a chance. Caroline seemed to be pouring honey on the poison. Let's meet Henry tomorrow morning. You need to rest today. But Alicia tried to object. That's not up for discussion, Caroline snapped. Your room is on the second floor. Harry will show you the way. And indeed, Harry approached Alicia and quietly touched her shoulder. Let's go. I'll show you where you'll sleep. The girl obeyed. She no longer had the strength to protest. The news of being forced into marriage took away her already small reserves of confidence. What could await her if she rebelled? Soon Alicia found herself in a small bedroom with a window overlooking the garden. At least, that's how Harry described her. Here. There's a bed, there's a nightstand. You can put your cane on this chair, he said, helping her get her bearings. Thank you, she whispered, and sat down on the edge of the bed. Harry stood there for a few seconds, as if he wanted to say something important, but he remained silent and left. Having closed the door, Alicia listened to the sounds. The house seemed too big, and she herself was tiny and helpless. Oh my God, what's going on? She said, touching her pocket where her necklace was. Mom, Dad, tell me what to do. Outside, the city's nightlights flickered outside the window, the flickering of which Alicia could not see, but she felt with her whole skin the presence of something incredibly huge and alien. It was barely dawn when she was awakened by a knock on the door. Can I come in? Came a polite male voice. Yes. Alicia sat up in bed with difficulty and ran her hand through her hair. The door opened and a light laugh was heard from behind it. So you are the girl Grandma has been calling about for a week now? Alicia tensed up. As usual, she couldn't see her interlocutor, but she felt his presence very close. Are you Henry? She asked. Henry Scott, at your service. He answered quietly. But I don't remember asking Grandma to send me a wife. So you're not thrilled with the idea either? Alicia felt a surge of relief. At least her interlocutor sounded rather ironic. Not at all delighted, Henry responded. I think this is all nonsense. What prophecy? What fate? Grandma has gone mad, but there's no point in arguing with her. Alicia touched the cane, pressing it to herself. Then why should we continue this farce? She said decisively. Because Caroline Scott is not the kind of woman you can challenge. Henry sighed. She doesn't even leave me a choice, and I'm the main heir here. However, let's go. Have breakfast. Like civilized people, and you'll understand everything. Alicia pursed her lips. The word you sounded a little familiar from the lips of a stranger, but she decided not to delve into this nuance. After all, they were almost the same age. Okay, lead. The way, she agreed. Getting up from the bed, Henry took her arm, and together they went down the steep stairs. The house came alive with morning noises. Somewhere in the kitchen, dishes were clinking. A TV was playing in the background in the living room. Servants were talking in the hallway. I think you'll soon get used to it, Henry said when they passed by the large stained glass windows. You'll see. Our servants are real characters. I don't see, she answered shortly, Alicia removing her hand. Sorry, I forgot, he muttered, coughing embarrassedly. Here's the table. Here's the chair. Sit down. Alicia carefully lowered herself down, trying to maintain her dignity in every minute of this protracted nightmare. Do you need any help? Henry asked, when the servant put the plates and cups on the table. I'll sort it out myself, she answered firmly, vaguely feeling for the cutlery and a hot bowl of porridge in front of her. Miss Moore, I hope you'll get used to the breakfast routine. We keep everything on schedule here. Caroline Scott's voice suddenly rang out as she entered the dining room. Henry, help the girl if she can't cope, she added. No need, Granny, Henry responded, his voice filled with tired irony. Miss Moore seems to be able to handle herself quite independently. We'll see how she maintains this independence when she realizes what kind of family she's ended up in, Caroline noted coldly. I don't want any quarrels or arguments. The wedding is next week. Alicia almost spilled her porridge. Next week? This is ridiculous. How? Why such a rush? She exclaimed, with difficulty suppressing her indignation. Because my word is law, and not to you, girl. To challenge it, Carolina snapped. Besides, you have no money, no place to live, no job. My people checked that. Unless you go back to your hole in Oregon. But then I'm afraid your adoptive mother won't be happy. She's already received an advance from us. So, Alicia turned pale. You just bought me? Henry clenched his fists nervously. Grandma, this is too much. Maybe we should at least tell her the truth? He stood up and pushed his chair back. What truth? That our family lawyer found out that there is an old legend according to which the Scott family will be saved by a bride born on the day of an eclipse, and blah blah blah. You don't believe that nonsense, do you? Carolina raised her eyebrows. Of course I don't, but I don't see the point in putting so much pressure on Alicia. Henry winced. Call it whatever you want. Pressure or protecting our family. The fact remains, Alicia fits this prophecy, Caroline sighed. Now stop playing the fool. We will do as I said anyway. Alicia was at a loss for words. Inside, her rage raged. She dreamed of a better life away from Helen, but no one said that she would be thrown into a richer cage. Listen, Mrs. Scott, she began, but Caroline interrupted her. Enough. I will provide you with everything you need. Clothes, a room, servants. Your business is to marry Henry. Otherwise, I will make your life even worse than it was, she said harshly. Now go. Henry, show her the house, and let her understand where she got to. Henry sighed heavily, threw his napkin on the table, and stood up. Let's go, Alicia, he said. Trying not to show her tears, she stood up, holding her cane, and followed him out, feeling how hot waves of humiliation and fear swirled inside her. Forgive her tone, that's just Grandma, Henry grumbled. Believe me, I don't have it easy either. I grew up in this mansion, but I never imagined that one day I would literally be forced to marry. Can't you resist? Alicia exhaled. She threatens to transfer the entire inheritance to my cousins, or simply sell the company if I do not fulfill her will. I don't want to lose what my late father left me. Henry spread his hands. But I sympathize with you too. Sympathy? It sounds nice, but it won't help me in any way, she noted bitterly, stopping at the edge of a large window, which she felt with her hand. There's a view of the courtyard here. There's a fountain and a garden, Henry explained. She turned her head slightly. I can guess for myself that everything is luxurious here. But personally, I would prefer a miserable life at home than to be a puppet. Why do you even believe in the prophecy? Me? I don't believe it. Grandma? Yes. She probably knows better. Henry moved his shoulders. But I have nowhere else to go. Maybe something will come of our union. Alicia remained silent. She was too stunned by everything that was happening. Probably, the marriage would take place against their will. How could they live on in this mansion? She was interrupted by a woman who looked like a servant, or maybe some kind of secretary. It was difficult to tell by her voice. Mr. Scott, the finance director, is waiting for you in the office. There are some papers to sign, she said. Henry turned to Alicia. Wait a while and you might want to go into the library, down the hall on the left. It's quiet there and no one will bother you if you want to think about life, he suggested before leaving. Alicia was left alone. She groped her way down the hallway that smelled of polished wood and soon found a tall door. Entering, she felt the shelves with books, feeling the spines with her fingertips. There hadn't been a single decent book in Helen's old house, but here there was a whole library. But so what? She couldn't see the text. God, why am I here? She muttered, sinking into the soft seat. Maybe I should run away? And where? No money, no phone, no friends. Thoughts rushed about, beating against the walls of the soul, and blind eyes helplessly looked into the darkness that never disappeared. The creak of the door brought her out of her thoughts. Alicia? A quiet voice called. It turned out to be Lydia, a young maid, judging by her light gait and slightly embarrassed tone. Mrs. Scott asked me to give you this dress to try on. She wants to make sure that everything will fit for the ceremony, Lydia said embarrassedly. The ceremony? Is it really a wedding already? Alicia babbled, grabbing her cane. No, just a fitting for now. The wedding is in a few days, Lydia replied. Let me show you where you can change. Okay, Alicia nodded. Lydia took her hand gently and led her back upstairs to the same room that had recently been assigned to Alicia. The girl heard the rustling of heavy fabric as Lydia laid the dress out on the bed. Would you like me to help you put it on? The maid suggested. Please. Alicia humbly raised her hands, feeling the sharp smell of expensive silk. The fabric was pleasant to the touch, but everything inside her was shrinking from the understanding that she was being dressed like a bride without asking her consent. It looks like the dress fits well, Lydia muttered uncertainly, adjusting the hem. Thank you, Alicia replied, although there was nothing to thank for. Suddenly the door swung open. Caroline stood on the threshold, smelling of sharp perfume. Let's see what kind of bride you are, she muttered, and looked at Alicia as if evaluating goods. It will do just fine. Yes, gorgeous, she concluded, not hiding a contemptuous smirk. Mind you, girl, you must look decent when the guests arrive. I don't want to be embarrassed in front of Henry's family. Alicia wanted to object that she hadn't been looking forward to this wedding in principle, but she kept silent, seeing that Caroline was already leaving, ordering Lydia to remove everything unnecessary. Well, you'll have to get used to this kind of treatment, Lydia said quietly when the door slammed shut. I know Mrs. Scott can be stern, but don't be afraid. I'm always here if you need anything. Thank you, Lydia, Alicia answered, trying to smile, although her soul was empty. I don't understand why they treat me like this. Do they really think that being blind means helpless? Yes, many people here think so, Lydia admitted. But don't worry, mister. Henry has a kind heart. He's not like Grandma. Alicia sighed and touched the pendants on her necklace with her fingers, hidden under the fabric of her dress. She couldn't see the light, but she felt something inside her saying that fate was already on its strange path. And perhaps she would regret more than once that she had left Maplewood Springs so easily, where the wind and the pines were the only witnesses to her suffering. Alicia lay on her bed, listening to her own heartbeat, and felt anxiety boiling inside. She was only days away from her upcoming wedding, and she still didn't know what to say or do. Time flowed slowly, like a stubborn swamp, dragging her into the depths of fear. It seemed to her that the whispers of her household behind the wall constantly sounded like mockery, a blind bride sold to the Scots house, a toy in the hands of the imperious Caroline and the not very interested Henry. Alicia, are you okay? Lydia asked quietly, appearing at the threshold of the room. It was as if she sensed the girl's mood because she did not let go of the cane, lying with her face buried in the pillow. Probably not, Alicia responded, getting up with difficulty. And I have no idea what to do next. I'm confused. They are literally forcing me to become a part of their family. I understand, Lydia muttered. But believe me, Mr. Henry is not as bad as he seems. He's just trapped, just like you. Alicia stood up and went to the window, trying not to trip over a chair along the way. Lydia, she said, clutching her cane. How long have you been working here? Almost since my teenage years, she answered, settling herself against the wall. Let's say I didn't always feel safe in this house either, but it's livable. Can I ask you for a favor? Alicia's voice sounded muffled. I'm afraid to go to Caroline or Henry with questions, but I want to understand what rights I have. Or at least is there a chance to refuse? Oh, Lydia shook her head. I'm afraid Mrs. Scott did everything so that you had no choice. She has already paid your foster mother some money, and now she doesn't want to lose her investment. However, try talking to Henry. He has a kind heart, and if he wants, he will find a way to help you. Alicia bit her lip slightly, remembering the recent conversation in the dining room, when Henry admitted that he was not thrilled about all this either, but his protest looked as helpless as her own. Okay, she said finally. I'll try to talk to him, thank you. Lydia nodded and left, leaving Alicia alone with growing anxiety. Half an hour later, deciding not to delay, the girl carefully tapped her cane on the floor of the corridor, moved to the stairs, and went down. In the front, the muffled music of the piano was heard in the hall, and men's voices could be heard nearby. She took a couple of uncertain steps when she bumped into a man who was apparently standing right in her path. Hey, watch your step, an irritated voice rang out. Or your cane. Sorry, Alicia answered quietly, stepping back. I didn't see you. Yeah, you don't see a lot of things, the stranger chuckled. My name is William Parker. I'm an investment manager for the Scotts. I help with finances and business. And you, then, are our future Mrs. Scott, right? Yes, Alicia admitted, nervously squeezing the handle of her cane. Well, not exactly ours, but anyway, let's get acquainted. Good luck to you in this family, William muttered, stepping aside. I hope you have strong nerves. Alicia took a few more steps, felt the doorway with her hand, where the sounds of music were coming from. As she entered, she heard the piano fall silent. Who's there? Henry asked, his voice making it clear that he was wary. It's me, Alicia, she replied. Sorry if I'm disturbing you, I just wanted to talk. No, I'm not disturbing you, Henry responded, pushing the piano stool back. I'm just tired of mechanically running over the keys. Sit down. Where's the chair? Alicia asked. A little to the left, yes, like this. Henry guided her with his hand. And what did you want to talk about? Alicia sat down and exhaled. Henry, tell me, is there really no way to cancel this wedding, or postpone it until we figure it out? I don't understand why your grandmother needs this at all. Does she need my consent? Henry laughed bitterly. My grandmother can't stand no. She firmly believes in some stupid prophecy, or maybe she just wants to maintain power over me and over you too. But this is madness, Alicia exclaimed, almost forgetting her usual caution. You, a rich family, could find any suitable girl who can see, walk, and be useful in some way. And I... Stop it, Henry raised his voice. Don't you dare say that you're somehow different, okay? I didn't choose you, but Grandma is sure that your date of birth and all that. Hell, I don't know the whole story. Maybe some kind of zodiacal coincidence, or an eclipse coincidence. And you're just going to accept it? Alicia leaned forward, clutching her cane. What about your own plans for life? Your happiness? My plans? Henry grinned wryly. Should I tell you the honest truth? I work for the company my father once founded, and I spend most of my time living up to Caroline's expectations. She always says, "You're the heir, Henry, and you must lead the family to prosperity." I'm tired of arguing, tired of trying to prove that I have my own will. Maybe marrying you will be the last step I take to make her finally leave me alone. And me? Alicia stood up abruptly, feeling the floor with her cane. Who will think of me? Henry was silent for a few seconds, then sighed slowly. I understand. That's why I want to offer you a deal. We'll get married, indulge your grandmother's madness, but I'll do everything to make your life easier in this house. If you're uncomfortable, we'll find a way out. Maybe you'll settle in, or maybe we'll get a divorce later. Get a divorce after everything? Alicia caught her breath. That sounds like another adventure, and besides, where would I go? I have no one. That's exactly why I'm proposing at least a temporary union. Henry crossed his arms over his chest. I give you my word that I won't rush you into intimacy or anything at all. A formal marriage, and that's it. Alicia suddenly felt a wave of relief rise inside her. In any case, Henry wasn't going to make her life hell. You're telling the truth, aren't you? She asked, a little quieter. I find it hard to trust people who buy others like things. I didn't buy you, Henry answered wearily. Grandmother, yes, but I'm not the kind of person who approves of such things. At that moment, the door to the room quietly opened, and a familiar cold voice was heard. I see you're discussing something without me? Grandmother. Henry turned around heavily. We were just talking about the wedding. Caroline stepped closer, seemingly not even bothering to hide her irritation. I hope you're not trying to change my mind? She asked. I'm not trying to cancel. Henry tried to speak more calmly. I'm just explaining to Alicia that she has no choice anyway. And I'm glad you understand that, Caroline sighed, especially since preparations for the ceremony are already in full swing. Representatives of our family will arrive next Tuesday, and I want everything to look perfect. Alicia felt her knees shaking. Tuesday. It's only a few days. Mrs. Scott, she began, will they at least tell me what I should say and do during the ceremony? I can't see anything, and you don't need any unnecessary details. Caroline waved her hand. You will stand while the priest says the words. Henry will give you his hand at the right moment. Mind you, no hysterics, otherwise you will regret it greatly. Got it, Alicia whispered quietly. And Henry. Caroline turned to her grandson. Remind your family lawyer Clark to arrange the relevant documents. I need everything to be legally recorded without any loopholes. Got it, Henry answered shortly. Caroline cast an appraising glance at Alicia, and she seemed to feel a chilling stream slide over her skin. I hope you will get yourself in order for the wedding, the woman said. I don't want the guests to think that we are taking a girl from God. Knows where. Lydia will take care of your wardrobe, and you, Henry, provide her with at least some kind of etiquette teacher. We don't have time, but at least something needs to be done. An etiquette teacher? Alicia asked again. Yes, girl, Caroline said mockingly. Or do you know how to dine with guests and have a small talk without swallowing your words? Alicia remained silent, feeling that there was no point in arguing. Caroline turned on her heels and, clicking them, left the room. Henry only shook his head. Sorry, I know it sounds humiliating, but that's how she is. Soon I'll have a friend of mine come to see you, an expert in social manners. At least he's a good person. Maybe he'll make this process less painful. Okay. Alicia lowered her head slightly. I guess it really wouldn't hurt. I grew up in the boondocks. I've never been to a formal dinner, and I've certainly never been to my own wedding. Henry touched her elbow. Let's walk. I'll show you the garden. It's quieter there, and we can discuss the details without prying ears. She nodded, and together they went out into the corridor, crossed the spacious hall, past the high stained glass doors, and found themselves in the courtyard. Alicia heard the fountain murmuring nearby, felt the warmth of the morning sun on her skin. Beautiful, isn't it? Henry said quietly. In the center of the garden composition is a fountain in the form of a marble nymph, surrounded by rose bushes. I don't come here often. I forget that I have such a place behind my house. Alicia took a step along the tiled path, caught the light scent of roses. And I've never seen such gardens even in my dreams, she admitted. Thank you for bringing me. It's really calm here. Look, Henry lowered his voice. Maybe I can still get the wedding postponed if I find a serious reason. Why? Alicia was surprised. Will that really do anything? I think it will give us time. He frowned. Maybe we'll figure out how to get out of this madness. Can you imagine what it's like for me to marry a girl I've only seen a couple of times in my life? And what about me? She asked sadly. I don't even know what's going to happen next. Then let's work together, Henry suggested, taking her hand. I promise I won't touch you before the wedding. I won't force you to play the role of a happy wife, but I need to at least show my grandmother the appearance of preparation. Alicia, shuddering inwardly, thought. Okay, she said finally. But if I feel like I can't take it anymore, I'll run away. I won't hold you back, Henry admitted. But I still hope we can find a compromise. Okay, let's go back to the house before my grandmother decides that we're planning to run away right now. Returning to the house, Alicia encountered a strange bustle. Servants were running along the corridor, carrying some boxes, and Caroline, like a general, stood in the middle of the hall and gave orders. Clara, these flowers aren't here. I ordered them to be put in the living room. Lydia, help Alicia change his clothes. The dresser will be arriving soon to try on new dresses. The girl turned her face to Henry. What kind of costume designer? Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. Grandma hired a designer to make you some outfits for the wedding. Apparently she wants to do everything pompously. Again, something that is done without my consent, Alicia muttered. Get used to it. Henry sighed. Try to perceive this as a temporary necessity. A few minutes later, she was taken to a spacious room with many mirrors, as Lydia explained, and blinding spotlights. Alicia groped her way forward and heard a joyful voice. Mademoiselle, pleased to meet you. My name is Vivian Rose. I am your costume designer. Oh, what a beautiful figure you have, and what stunning hair. We'll pick everything out now. Sorry, I won't see what you're going to pick out. Alicia sighed. I can't see. Oh, I'm so sorry. Vivian hesitated. But it's okay, believe me. I have a great sense of style, and will make you the queen of the ball. Alicia didn't answer, realizing that it was easier to come to terms with the inevitable. Vivian started fussing around, bringing fabric scraps, describing their colors and textures. This is silk with a slight shimmer. I call its shade pearl pink. It will go perfectly with your warm skin type, she chattered, touching Alicia's shoulders to measure the width. Then there is another deeper option, a little closer to lilac. You will be like a rose at dawn. Alicia only nodded. Half an hour later, Vivian exhaled, indicating to Lydia which measurements to write down. Excellent. I'll start cutting immediately, the costume designer announced. I'm afraid there's little time before the wedding, so I have to work quickly. But don't worry, everything will be top-notch. When Vivian left, Alicia promised herself not to cry. She was surrounded by strangers who decided every step for her. But somewhere deep inside, an unusual feeling was growing. Maybe this situation would open up new opportunities for her, or at least give her a chance to escape her previous, even more terrible life. In the evening, she met with the etiquette teacher recommended by Henry. His name was Arthur Holmes, an elegant man with a soft voice, polite manners, and an incomprehensible, ironic smile. Miss Moore, let me teach you the basic social skills, he began, sitting down opposite her, starting with how to greet guests and ending with the correct phrases to say at receptions. I don't understand why I need this, Alicia shrugged. In just a week, everything could end in a wedding, or a divorce. I admit, it's not for me to judge, Arthur answered. But since you're going to represent the Scott family, it's better to know which hand to hold a glass of champagne in and which to hold a dessert fork in. Alicia sighed quietly. An hour passed, during which Arthur explained various rules, and she unsuccessfully tried to remember them. The lesson ended with a rehearsal of how to curtsy if one of the older family members demands respect. I'm blind, Alicia reminded Arthur. It's hard for me to imagine what this curtsy of yours looks like. It's okay, the teacher responded with sincere understanding. The main thing is, feel the movement. I'll help. He gently took her hand, showed her how to bend her knee slightly, tilt her head. Alicia felt ridiculous, but she tried, because there was no other way. When the lesson came to an end, Arthur collected the papers, bowed, and said, "If there is anything that bothers you, miss, feel free to ask. I will come every day until the wedding. I hope your role as a bride will be easy." "Thank you," she muttered, and smiled wearily. Later, in the silence of her room, Alicia sat on her bed and listened to the echoes of footsteps in the hallway. Her thoughts were racing. There were only a few days ahead, and then this marriage would become a reality. Henry's grandmother would probably throw a lavish reception. Guests would come. I wonder if she would have any allies besides Henry and Lydia. "Haven't you learned to knock more?" A man's voice suddenly sounded behind her. Alicia jumped up, clutching her cane. But then she realized that it was the voice of William Parker, the same manager. "You came in yourself," she reminded, trying to calm her heart. "And why are you in my room?" "I want to ask you one question," William said coldly, taking a step closer. "Do you understand that Caroline Scott has something much more complicated in mind than just creating the appearance of a marriage?" Alicia felt around the area as if looking for support. "What do you mean?" she asked, taking a half step back. "She wants to strengthen her position in the business world through this union. Large assets are involved," William explained. "And if everything does not go according to plan, Caroline is ready to take extreme measures." "Extreme measures?" Alicia shuddered. "What are you talking about?" "Stop pretending that you don't understand," William snorted. "You'd better not try to rebel against her will. She's not the kind of person who will let you leave. If you want to stay healthy, it would be wiser to play by her rules." With these words, he turned and left, leaving Alicia in a daze. Of course, she suspected that Caroline was cunning, but she did not think that everything could be so dangerous. Alicia hardly slept at night. She tossed and turned until dawn, listening to the beating of her own heart. When the first rays of light colored the sky, the girl got up, groped for the doors, and quietly walked into the corridor. She wanted some air and decided to go out into the garden again. There, under the whisper of leaves and the distant rumble of the city, she sat down on a bench. "Can't sleep?" She heard a familiar voice. It was Henry, who, apparently, came to the garden for the same reason. "Can't sleep," Alicia agreed. What should we do?" He was silent for a moment, then slowly sat down next to her. "I found out that my grandmother wants to have a wedding in the old family chapel, right in our mansion. It's a closed event. There will be only close relatives, a few business representatives, and a couple of journalists." "So we're like exhibits in a zoo?" Alicia smiled bitterly. "Looks like it. But you know, I decided that I won't give her a chance to humiliate you in the eyes of the public. When we say I do, we'll hug each other as if we really love each other. Let it be our game. But at least no one will see the tragedy." Alicia sobbed. The pain and fatigue were off the charts, but Henry suddenly seemed like a ray of sympathy to her. "Thank you. Maybe we can pretend that everything is fine between us." "And then what?" "Then," Henry spread his hands, "we'll live together for a while. If we get along, we'll stay. If not, we'll go our separate ways." Alicia nodded. "I'm still scared. William Parker said Caroline could be dangerous." "I know," Henry nodded, "but I'm not a powerless pawn either. If she decides to play tough, I'll play some legal trump cards against her." "I believe you," Alicia whispered, feeling tears in her eyes that she couldn't hold back. "I just need to survive in this house." "You will survive," Henry said firmly. "I will help." They sat like that for a few more minutes, until the sun rose completely. Somewhere in the mansion, judging by the voices, the servants had already woken up, and life again began to run in a circle of preparations for the wedding. But at that moment, Alicia felt something akin to calm. Perhaps she and Henry would become allies, even if everything around them was hostile. When they returned to the house, Caroline was already waiting for them at the threshold, her arms folded across her chest. Walks at dawn, how romantic, she sneered. I hope you weren't discussing any stupidities like running away or calling off the wedding. Grandmother, calm down, Henry answered. We just spent time together as a bride and groom. Excellent, Caroline softened her voice. Then let me show Alicia the very place where the ceremony will take place. Let her get acquainted with the space in advance, so as not to faint at the important moment. Of course, Henry nodded. And the three of them walked along a long corridor, came out to the back of the mansion, where there was a Gothic-style chapel. Alicia groped her way inside, feeling the coolness of the stone walls and the subtle scent of candles. This chapel was built by my ancestors, Caroline said in a lecturer's tone. The Scott family holds all their weddings here. Alicia felt for the pews, heading along the central aisle. Is it a narrow passage here? She clarified. Yes, but Henry will be nearby, taking your arm. Everything will go smoothly if you don't think of doing something crazy, Caroline warned. Alicia said nothing, only noting to herself that the place was rather gloomy for a joyful event. Apparently the Scott family preferred ancient traditions and ancient rituals. I think that's enough, Caroline announced at last. Get back to preparing. We don't have time for unnecessary walks. We have a rehearsal tomorrow evening. She left, and Henry clenched his teeth. You see what a commander she is, he whispered. Yes, Alicia croaked hoarsely. But it's okay. We'll manage. They left the chapel, and Alicia felt two feelings fighting inside her, fear and a strange determination. Now there were only a few days left, and she wanted to be strong, if only for her own sake. In the evening, when twilight enveloped the city, Alicia sat in her room and listened to Lydia, who spoke with admiration about how beautifully the hall and courtyards would be decorated on the wedding day. There will be an arch of fresh flowers and rose petals scattered along the path, Lydia said enthusiastically. Just think of how luxurious. I'd rather go somewhere far away, Alicia sighed. But it's too late. It might not be so bad. Lydia tried to support her. You and Mr. Henry seem friendlier than he was with all his previous passions, believe me from my experience. Previous passions? Alicia asked again, frowning. I didn't know he had a serious relationship. He rarely brings girls to the house. Officially there was only one here, Miss Margot, the daughter of some business partner. But they quickly broke up. And there are rumors that she was too greedy, and Grandma was against it. Alicia bit her lip. It followed that Henry had also gotten used to Caroline's dictate and had been living in it for a long time, losing hope for personal freedom. We'll see, she finally said, running her hand over her cane. I just need to endure. But a premonition told her that this wedding would not be easy, and she was not mistaken. Alicia woke up from the sound of muffled voices behind the door and realized that the very day had come. She lay on the cool sheets, feeling how everything inside was shaking with tension. The pounding of her own heart echoed in her temples, and she mechanically reached for her cane, as if looking for her only support in it. There was a knock on the door. Alicia, can I come in? Lydia asked, trying to speak quietly. It's already morning. Yes, of course, the girl answered, exhaling forcefully. Lydia entered, and Alicia heard a light rustling of fabric. This is your wedding dress, she said quietly. Vivian brought it last night. Finished work almost at night. Thank you, Alicia whispered, putting her trembling fingers to the hem of the dress. It's beautiful. Yes, simply gorgeous. Lydia put sincere admiration into these words. Miss Rose did everything to make you look like a princess. A blind princess, and one who can be sold, too. Alicia smiled bitterly. I'm sorry, I don't want to ruin the mood. I just still can't believe that this is happening. Maybe everything will work out for the best. Lydia lightly touched Alicia's hand. Let me help you get dressed. Alicia allowed herself to be taken off her nightgown and felt the cool touch of the wedding silk sliding over her skin. The dress fit like a glove. Vivian knew her business, Every seam, every detail was perfectly adjusted. Turn slightly to the left. Yes, like that? Asked Lydia, adjusting the narrow straps. You need to fasten the small hooks on the back. Everything is fine, nodded Alicia, trying to stand up straight. And the hair? Now we'll do a simple but elegant hairstyle. Lydia took a comb from the dressing table. Vivian told me not to burden my head with complex structures, so that you don't get tangled up while moving down the aisle. Alicia smiled slightly, imagining how somewhere in the palace a bride is getting a bulky hairstyle made from hundreds of hairpins, and all she needs to do is not fall at the altar, because they didn't allow her to take a cane with her on the occasion of the wedding. You know, I'm grateful to you, Lydia, she said, when she carefully gathered her chestnut hair. If it weren't for your support, I would have gone crazy. I'm always here for you, she answered quietly. Maid, besides, you and Mr. Henry seem to have established contact. Yes, he tries to show sympathy, Alicia bit her lip, but I'm still not sure why he needs it. Maybe he's just following his grandmother's wishes. Maybe, but it's still better than complete indifference. Lydia fixed a thin tiara in her hair. Done. There was another knock on the door, and Arthur Holmes, the etiquette teacher, entered the room with a polite cough. Good morning, Miss Moore, he said. I came to see if any final instructions are needed because the ceremony is soon. I think they are, Alicia admitted sullenly. Everything inside me is turning over with fear. I don't see where I should go, and all this solemnity frightens me. Calm down, Arthur said softly. First, leave the room, take Henry's arm, and walk slowly to the entrance to the chapel. There he will lead you all the way to the altar. The priest is already aware of your peculiarities. He will speak more slowly and clearly so that you can answer in time. I hope I don't mix everything up. Alicia ran her hand over the smooth surface of her dress. I just want to be at least a little bit happy on this day. Even if she did not finish, but Arthur understood what they were talking about. If the heart is free, there is always room for a miracle, he said a little quieter. And now excuse me, I need to check the readiness of the officials so that everything goes without delay. He bowed and left, leaving behind a barely perceptible aroma of expensive perfume. Lydia helped Alicia sit down on the edge of the bed. Rest here for a minute. I'll go and find out when Henry will arrive, the maid suggested, and without waiting for an answer, left, closing the door behind her. The girl was left alone, listening to the hum of voices and noise outside. Footsteps and crumpled phrases rushed along the corridor every now and then. Someone loudly demanded that she bring flowers, and someone scolded her for improperly setting the buffet. All this resembled preparations for some lavish performance, where Alicia was to act as the central actress, without the right to rehearse. Alicia, she suddenly heard a muffled voice. You're here. Henry, she shuddered, recognizing the groom's voice. Yes, I'm waiting for you. He walked into the room, and she felt him hesitate a little, as if he didn't know what to say. You're wearing a dress. Henry finally managed to say, It must be very beautiful, although I'm not an expert. Thank you, Alicia smiled. How are you? I'm just as nervous as you are, he admitted. Grandma's already watching everyone from down in the hall, making noses at the employees I barely managed to get up and see you before it all starts. And what did you want to tell me? Alicia looked up at the sound of his voice. I hope there's good news. Henry came closer. I just wanted you to know that I'll be with you every second while we say these vows. This isn't a real wedding, maybe in some ways, but let's make it the least painful for both of us. Thank you, she whispered, touching the sleeve of his jacket tenderly. And I'm sorry if I look ridiculous, or if I stumble, or I'll mix up the words. Everything will be fine, he assured her. I'll tell you where you need to go, and I won't let you fall or make a mistake. At that moment, Dishes clattered loudly in the corridor, and Caroline's angry cry was heard. What a disgrace! Who dropped Henry's tray? Where are you, boy? It looks like they're already calling me, he grimaced. I'll be back in a few minutes, and then we'll go to the chapel together. Okay. Alicia nodded, feeling her heart pounding like crazy. Henry left, and she was once again left alone with her own trembling. The next minutes seemed endless to her, as if time had stretched out. Before her eyes stood the impenetrable darkness of her blindness, but inside, the colors of fear and uncertainty were boiling. Finally, the door opened slightly, and Lydia hesitantly stuck her head in. Alicia, it's time for you. I'll give you my hand. Mr. Scott is waiting downstairs. The girl, clutching her cane, stood up. But they told me to go. Without a cane, she remembered. How could it be? Leave it here, Lydia responded. Henry will catch you. Hold on tightly to his hand. Alicia took a deep breath, felt for Lydia with her hands so as not to fall, and took a few steps towards the exit. On the stairs below, as she already knew, Henry was waiting. Seeing Alicia, he came closer. Let me take your arm, he offered, carefully moving her palm to his elbow. Okay, the girl replied. Inside, she felt a surge of panic, but she tried to appear calm. Together they moved toward the chapel, the guests whispering about the blind bride and how strange it all looked. Hold on, Henry whispered. We're almost there. As they entered, Alicia felt the cold marble floor under her thin shoes and the faint smell of incense. The priest coughed to attract attention and said solemnly, We are gathered today to unite in holy matrimony Henry Scott and Alicia Moore. Silence reigned, and Alicia felt the touch of Henry's hand, which he squeezed her fingers imperceptibly. She tried to breathe more evenly, but her heart was ready to jump out. Henry Scott, will you agree? The priest began, and his voice echoed loudly under the vaults of the chapel. Yes, Henry answered clearly, not letting go of Alicia's hand. Alicia Moore, do you take to be your lawful husband? Yes, Alicia said almost inaudibly, but the priest nodded, accepting her answer. Then I pronounce you husband and wife, the priest solemnly concluded. You may kiss the bride. Henry leaned towards Alicia, lightly touched her cheek with his lips, and at that moment the hall gasped. Modest applause burst out. Those who were present may have felt the strangeness of what was happening, but outwardly, everything looked as it should be at a wedding. Congratulations, Caroline said coldly, approaching them as soon as the ceremony was over. I hope you are satisfied, miss. Or rather, Mrs. Scott. Alicia did not know what to answer and limited herself to a nod. Henry pulled her towards the exit, where light refreshments awaited the guests. But then William Parker jumped up to them, looking at the newlyweds with a sharp grin. Henry, my dear friend, but now you are tied hand and foot, he threw. I hope don't you think you'll be able to get out of this when your grandmother gets tired of it? Leave us alone, William, Henry snapped. Don't ruin people's holidays. Of course, the manager said sarcastically. Let me just remind you that business is waiting for your decisions, not your romantic impulses. Alicia felt Henry tense up, but tried to control herself. Let's go to that table instead, Henry suggested, pulling her aside. It's too crowded here. They spent some time accepting congratulations and giving short answers to the guests' questions. Several relatives shook hands, hugged them, and someone even tried to joke about the fact that the bride wouldn't see their chic outfits. But Henry quickly put an end to such conversations. Thank you for your kind words, he said when another cousin clicked her tongue in admiration. We are very touched. When the main formalities were completed, Caroline called out to them, Henry, take your wife to the guest quarters, let her change, and then come back to the table for dinner together. You'd better change your jacket, too. Looks wrinkled, Henry took Alicia aside, a little away from the noisy guests. How are you holding up? He asked, trying to make his voice sound friendly. I'm tired, she admitted. Too many sounds, people. Everyone wants to say something. I understand? Henry nodded. Let's go to our new room. More precisely, Grandma wants us to live together now, but for now I'll sleep on the couch if you don't mind. I don't care, Alicia sighed, as long as no one forces us to pretend to be something we're not. At least I won't hurt you, he assured. I promise. They went up to the second floor to the spacious chambers that Caroline had officially set aside for the newlyweds. Alicia felt the arrangement of the furniture so as not to trip. Henry helped her. There's a large bed here, a wardrobe on the left, and an armchair on the right, he said. I'll move some of your things here later. Okay, she nodded. And now, can I just sit in silence? Of course, Henry put his hand on her shoulder. I'll be back in about 10 minutes, and then we'll go to dinner together. Thank you, Alicia answered quietly. When he left, the girl ran her hand over the smooth bedspread of the bed, trying to imagine how ordinary people saw everything around her. She couldn't. There was no one else to share her emotions with except the ghostly image of her parents who had disappeared from her life so long ago. But instead of bitter tears, she felt devastation. The ceremony was over, and now she was officially Alicia Scott, tied in bonds with a man she didn't really know. About a quarter of an hour had passed when the door opened and Caroline entered instead of Henry. Darling, she said with false warmth, I wanted to congratulate you personally and tell you that you now have responsibilities to take care of my grandson, support him in business, and maintain the family's reputation. And remember, any mistake can cost you dearly. I will try, Alicia replied, trying to remain calm, but I don't promise that I will be perfect. I don't expect you to. Caroline smiled coldly. Just remember, if you ever get the idea to run away or disobey me, I will make you regret your decision. Can I get out of here without outside help? Alicia noted bitterly. You deprived me of my cane at the ceremony, then deprive me of the opportunity to leave as well. You're a smart girl, Caroline nodded. I'm glad we found common ground. She turned and walked out, leaving behind the smell of expensive perfume and a feeling of icy threat. A minute later, Henry returned. I heard my grandmother's voice, he said worriedly. What did she say? She just reminded me that I'm now part of your clan, Alicia answered, smiling devastatedly, and that I'd better not do anything stupid. I'm sorry, Henry muttered. She always keeps everything under control, but don't worry, we'll think of something. I was thinking about business. If I can become truly independent, I'll be able to protect both of us from her dictate. I'll be only glad, Alicia said quietly. If we have enough strength to endure all this. That's enough, he assured. Well, now we'll have to go down to dinner together, otherwise she'll make a scene again. They headed downstairs to a spacious hall decorated with garlands of flowers and candles. The sound of cutlery, voices, guests, whispers, everything merged into one wave of noise. When Alicia approached the long table with Henry, one of the relatives stood up and proposed a toast. To the new couple who will bring happiness to the Scotty. Family. The guests clapped their hands, champagne clinked in the glasses, Alicia pretended to smile, although inside her anxiety was only growing. Henry, seeing her state, tried to distract her from the harsh comments of other participants in the celebration, told some jokes, kept up the conversation. So, how is it for you to be the wife of a man like Henry, one of the second cousins, whose name Alicia did not have time to remember, asked. I'm still getting used to it, she honestly admitted. But I hope that he will teach me a lot. That's for sure. Henry picked up. We will learn from each other, really, my dear. Alicia nodded, internally embarrassed by this sharp dear, but she understood that this was part performance. Caroline herself, sitting at the head of the table, watched every movement of the newlyweds with concentration, occasionally exchanging a few words with some business partners. William Parker cast strange glances from afar, but did not interfere. When dinner was over, Henry led Alicia out of the hall through a side door where there were fewer guests. "How are you?" he asked quietly, noticing how she was breathing with difficulty. "My head is spinning from the smell of food, wine, conversation," Alicia admitted. "I'm more tired than in all the previous days." "I understand." Henry carefully led her through the corridor. "I suggest we go to our room and lock ourselves there. If Grandma starts to complain, I'll say we're newlyweds and want to be alone." "Are you really ready to protect me?" Alicia asked, smiling weakly. "I married you." He shrugged. "At least I should definitely be able to do that." They walked into the chambers, closed the door, and Alicia could finally breathe more evenly. It seemed to her that in the silence of this room, she was at least a little bit finding herself. "I'll make my bed on the sofa," Henry said, taking hold of the back. "Understand, I don't want to impose myself." "I appreciate it," she nodded. "Thank you." He hesitated, then continued. I wanted to say, you looked very, elegant today. And when we stood in front of the priest, I suddenly realized that I was glad that it was you, and not some soulless person that had been imposed on me before." Alicia lowered her head, not daring to answer. There was a strange flutter in her chest, as if Henry's words had touched something in her heart. "I'll probably start getting used to the idea that I have a husband," she said finally. "Even though it still sounds unbelievable." "We'll manage," he said, trying to sound confident. "Tomorrow, I'm going to discuss the company's affairs with William Parker to see where Grandma can put pressure on me. If we find weak spots, we'll be able to slowly break free from her dictate." "Okay," Alicia smiled tiredly. "Then we'll be allies." Henry nodded, unfolded the pillow on the sofa, and sat down, taking off his shoes. Alicia felt around for the bed and carefully lowered herself, still feeling the silhouettes of this day's events on her. "Good night," he whispered. "And to you too," she answered. Behind the door of the mansion, a quiet hum of voices continued. Some of the guests were leaving, some were staying overnight, but for Alicia, everything was no longer important. A new life lay ahead, strange and frightening, in a house where every step was controlled by the imperious Carolina. But now she had at least one person who did not wish her harm, her husband, even if they both found themselves hostages of someone else's will. Alicia woke up in a new bedroom and for a few moments couldn't figure out where she was. The bustle of the wedding and the noise of the reception from yesterday still echoed in her head. She ran her hand over the soft bedspread and caught the quiet breathing of Henry, who was sitting in a chair by the window. You could hear the fabric creak slightly when he sat up or changed position. Alicia sat up, stretched, and said uncertainly, "Henry, you're here." He coughed slightly. "Yes, I didn't want to wake you. I slept well." Alicia smiled a weak smile. "I slept very poorly. Honestly, I still don't believe that we're married." Henry sighed. "So do I. But what can I do? We're already in the game, and while Grandma won't give us a chance to get out of it. And how are you?" Alicia ran her hand over her temples. "My head is splitting as if I've had too much coffee." "How are you?" I asked, because yesterday you seemed more confident, but today your voice is somehow lost. Henry chuckled quietly. "Exactly lost. I don't understand what to do next, but I have an idea. William Parker asked me to meet him in our office today. He might want to discuss something from a business point of view. I think I'll go and then tell you the details." Alicia frowned slightly. "William is the Scots manager or something like that. I remember that he speaks very strangely and seems to have his own plans." "Henry, yes, William has been doing some business in my father's company for a long time. Caroline trusts him almost completely. But I'm not really friends with him. If he invited me to talk, it means he's definitely up to something or wants to report a danger." Alicia stood up and groped for her cane, which was eventually returned to her after the ceremony. However, Caroline didn't hide the fact that she hadn't done it with much pleasure. "You're going to meet Parker, and what should I do?" "Sit here." Henry quickly approached her and gently touched her elbow. "Listen, it would be better if you stayed in the room for now or walked around the house with Lydia, but stay away from Grandma. She's busy with some visits for the rest of the day and won't bother you." Alicia shrugged. "Okay, but be careful. I don't like it." "William, I feel that there is something bad behind his smile." Henry squeezed her hand. "I share your fears, but nothing ventured. Nothing escaped from Caroline's captivity. I will return as soon as I finish the conversation and tell you everything he left." Alicia was left alone. Feeling hungry, she decided to call out to Lydia, but suddenly she heard a quiet knock on the door. "Come in," she said, expecting to see the maid. But Arthur Holmes, the etiquette teacher, appeared outside the threshold. "Miss Moore, forgive me for showing up without an invitation, but it seems to me that something is going wrong in this family." Alicia tensed. "What do you mean?" Arthur sighed. "I have been watching the events since the wedding, and I am afraid that Caroline Scott and William Parker are playing some kind of secret game. William is not just a manager. He manages the family's unofficial accounts and enjoys Caroline's almost unlimited trust." Alicia frowned. "And this is dangerous for Henry." The etiquette teacher nodded in. "Seems to me that they want to control Henry through marriage to you, and if he suddenly begins to disobey, they will not hesitate to go to extreme measures. I heard William say something about the need to remove unnecessary obstacles." Alicia went cold. At his words, "remove," it could mean anything. Arthur nodded. "Yes. So please be on your guard. Although you are in an unfamiliar environment, you could at least enlist the help of some servants or look for evidence that would link Caroline and William to illegal machinations." Alicia ran her hand over her mouth, feeling growing uneasy. "But what can I do? I can't see, and I doubt I have the skills to dig through papers." Arthur smiled. "Can't blind people hear, feel, and understand more than sighted people you? Can notice the subtleties in people's voices, listen to how and what they say. You have a more subtle intuition." Alicia shook her head. "I'm scared, but I don't want to be a weak-willed pawn. Arthur, if you're telling the truth, I'll try to keep track of what's going on, but I can't do it alone. I can hope that you or Lydia will help." Arthur bowed his head politely. "Of course I'll do everything to help Henry and you, because even though I am formally listed as an etiquette teacher, I actually have great respect for Henry's father when he was alive. He had a wonderful reputation." "Thank you," whispered Alicia. "Thank you very much." Arthur left, and Alicia felt her heart pounding harder than usual. She needed to talk to Henry as soon as possible to understand what William was up to, and to find out if Caroline was threatening her with something worse. As if at the call of her thoughts, Lydia entered the room with a slight smile. "Alicia, I brought you breakfast. Do you want to rest here, or should we go down to the dining room?" Alicia took a short breath. "Let's do it here, and then we'll go down. I'm too absent-minded to go to people now." Lydia put the tray down and helped Alicia feel for the cutlery. The plate with hot toast and omelet smelled very tempting, but the girl ate through force. Her thoughts were spinning around Arthur's words. About half an hour later, footsteps were heard in the corridor, and the door swung open decisively. Henry walked in quickly. "Alicia, we need to talk, urgently." Lydia walked out. Leaving them alone, Alicia squeezed Henry's cane. Something happened. He came very close and said in a low voice, "William told me that the company is on the verge of a major financial scandal. Allegedly, part of the investments went into the shadows and then disappeared. And now, if this comes to light, we will have millions in debt." Alicia frowned. "And what does it have to do with you and me? Henry Carolina has some connections. She can hush up the scandal, but only if I follow all her orders. And it turns out that my marriage to you is just one part of the plan to strengthen my status as the head of the company, but in fact, Grandma wants me to keep quiet and not get involved in these dark affairs. Perhaps William was the one pulling off all the machinations, and now they want to blame me if I refuse to cooperate. Alicia bit her lip. So they are going to put pressure on you and through me even more. This confirms what Arthur said. They want to turn us into puppets. Henry nodded. But I do not intend. To remain silent, I am going to collect evidence and bring to light everyone involved. In machinations, Alicia shuddered inwardly. And how will you do it? You yourself say that they have power in their hands and connections with the police and lawyers. Yes, but I plan to talk to one person. He knew my father before all this story. I hope he can tell me how to act legally, and at the same time not let Grandma destroy us. Alicia quietly exhaled. And can I help with something? Henry touched her hand. You see, you can be my eyes and ears. Not in the sense of sight, but in the sense that people will think that you are harmless and do not notice the important. But in fact, if you hear something suspicious, for example, a conversation between Caroline and William, be sure to tell me. Alicia thought, okay, I will try to listen to everything that is said around me, but I need more freedom to move around the house and not arouse suspicion. We are now a family and formally, I am the mistress next to you. Henry smiled. Exactly like that as Mrs. Scott, you can go wherever you want. Say that you are studying the house and delving into its affairs. Grandmother won't be able to stop you because she'll have to maintain the appearance of your high status. Alicia bowed her head slightly. Then I'll try to take a walk without an escort. Today I'll tell Lydia that I want to get my bearings in the corridors better. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door again. Henry sighed heavily, turned around and opened it. Caroline was standing on the threshold, holding a thin folder in her hands. Henry, we need to talk about the documents for the future merger of the companies. Look, sign. I understand you're married. You want romance, but don't forget about your responsibilities. And Grandma, can I come first? Alicia sighed, taking a step forward. I'd like to look around the house to find out where everything is. Can I go? Lydia walked me. Carolina measured her with a keen gaze. You say you want to find out where everything is? Any way you like, just keep in mind. There are a lot of valuable archive rooms here. The company also stores documents. Don't meddle where you shouldn't. Alicia pretended to be embarrassed. Okay, I'm just curious. I apologize. Caroline waved her hand. Just go. Don't interfere with the business. Part of the Scots' lives. Extra questions are pointless. When she turned to Henry, Alicia quietly slipped out of the room. The tapping of the cane echoed down the long corridor. Lydia followed beside Mrs. Scott. Where shall we go first? Alicia whispered. First to the second floor and then to the back rooms, they say. There is a library and archive there. Lydia widened her eyes in fear. There really are shelves with old papers there, but Mrs. Caroline doesn't like it when people go there. Alicia nodded. I understand, but let's say I'm looking for family history. I want to know about my ancestors. Don't worry. Lydia smiled timidly. Okay, let's go. They moved along the creaky parquet floor, walking, step by step until they reached the door with a large bronze handle. Inside, there really were massive cabinets full of folders and bundles of old books. It smelled of antiquity and a little damp. Alicia carefully walked along the shelves, tapping her cane on the floor and listening just in case suddenly some secrets could be hidden here. Suddenly she heard a slight noise behind one of the shelves as if someone was moving. Lydia stopped. Alicia heard footsteps. Yes, I heard them too, the maid whispered. Let's go. Alicia followed the sound, but whoever was there disappeared into the opposite corner. Leaving Lydia by the door, she felt the edge of a large bookcase and examined the protruding folders. Surprisingly, one of them was not tightly closed and something soft to the touch was sticking out inside an envelope. Alicia carefully pulled the envelope and pulled it out. Lydia whispered, "Maybe we shouldn't." Alicia shook her head. "I don't know, we want to find evidence. Maybe there's something important in this." She touched the edges of the envelope, trying to see if there was paper inside. "It looks like a photograph. Lydia, come here." She handed the envelope to the maid, who carefully opened it and gasped. "What was there?" Alicia got worried. Lydia slowly said, "It seems there is a photo of Mr. Scott, Henry's father, not with his family, but with some other person. And on the back, there is a date and a strange designation. Maybe this is connected with that scandal about which you were talking." At that moment, a sharp voice was heard behind them. "What are you doing here?" The girls turned around and saw William Parker, who was squinting at them in the semi-darkness. Lydia nervously put the photographs back in the envelope. Alicia threw the cane further under the shelf, pretending to look for it. "Drop the cane. Mr. Parker was looking for it." William grimaced. "Yeah, we were looking for the cane. I wonder why then you and Lydia were rummaging through the documents." Alicia pretended to be scared. "Oh no, I'm sorry. We just went to look at the library." Lydia was helping me feel the shelves. Suddenly my cane slipped. William sighed. "This is not a place for walking. I'm afraid you are disturbing the peace of the hostess." Alicia bowed her head. "Sorry, we won't do this again." William glanced at Lydia, as if to say they will get it for this, but said out loud, "Okay, go away and don't come back here without Caroline's permission." Lydia pulled the cane out from behind the drawer and helped Alicia go out the door, the girl's heart pounding like crazy. When they went out into the corridor, she stopped. "You took the envelope?" asked in a whisper. Lydia waved a corner of paper behind her back. "No, it was too noticeable, but I managed to hide one photo between the sheets of my notebook." Alicia sighed with relief. "Great. At least there is something. Then we'll show Henry, let him look and understand what we are talking about." However, they did not have to wait long. In the evening, Alicia and Henry finally retired to their room, and Lydia quietly handed them the photo that she managed to steal. Alicia told Henry about what happened. He listened carefully and then took the photo. Examining it under the light of the lamp, he quietly cursed Alicia, who was there. Henry spoke quickly. "It looks like my father is standing next to a man who looks like a former senator who was accused of corruption and embezzlement of budget funds. The signature is handwritten. There is a date. It is about a year before his death. But why is this photo in the family archive hidden?" Among the papers, Alicia frowned. Maybe her father knew that the senator was involved in fraud and tried to bring him to justice, or vice versa. Collaborated. Henry frowned. Who the hell knows? But this is clearly not a random photo. If William and Granny are doing something illegal, they could use her father's connection with that senator as a way of blackmail. Or, on the contrary, this photo could be evidence that compromises the Scotts themselves. Alicia took a step toward the sound of his voice. "Henry, do you think we are in real danger if we continue to investigate this case?" He nodded, "I suppose. So William has already noticed you in the archive. He will be more alert, but at least we have something now. I will scan this photo in our home office, maybe. I will find more mentions of the senator and the connection with the company. We must know the truth." Alicia answered quietly. "I agree. If we want to free ourselves from Caroline's influence, we need to find out everything that is hidden behind these dark deeds. Otherwise, we will be constantly blackmailed." He came closer and gently hugged her. "I will not let them harm you," he said seriously. "Even though we entered into a forced marriage, I do not want to lose a man who is ready to help me and whom I already respect." Alicia felt a warm wave throughout her body. She did not expect Henry to become such an ally. "Thank you. I hope we can defeat Caroline and William, but we will have to act carefully. If everything will come to light too soon, they can take it out on us. And I'm afraid for you too." He hugged her even tighter. "I'm ready to risk it for our freedom. I'll find a way to escape their clutches, and then we can both live the way we want." Alicia sighed. Where this case will lead us, I don't know, but I hope in the end. What awaits us is not something terrible, but a chance to live without fear. That evening, they could not fall asleep for a long time, thinking over their plan of action. Carolina told them to show up for a family dinner tomorrow, where there should be important guests. Apparently, they will have to play the role of happy spouses again, but now, Alicia and Henry have become truly close people, united by a common goal to understand the terrible secrets of the Scott family, and not let these secrets ruin their own destiny.